I'd like to call this meeting of the Cumberland Fire Committee review of the upcoming budget to order. If we could, right? Yeah, if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Oh yeah, I'm all over that.
Oh, yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I have a moment of silence, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up. Will you give me, just say, give me 1 second?
There's not much on it.
No, it's probably, here we go.
Right, thank you.
Go ahead, take it.
Okay, new business. This is the first budget hearing to establish the operating budget for the Cumberland Fire District fiscal year 2018-2019. Actually, it should be fiscal year 2019. So we will have a report of the Finance Subcommittee's recommendation. So, Commissioner Champagne, before we do that, I would like to do a roll call. Oh, I just lost it.
That's okay, I'll get it.
Get it back. Commissioner Scullin.
Here.
Commissioner Champagne.
Here.
Commissioner Hogan.
Here.
Commissioner Archibald.
Here.
Commissioner Santoro.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Willett is here. Everyone is here. Okay. Commissioner Champagne, can I turn this over to you
Okay.
as chairperson of the Finance Subcommittee?
Okay, I'm going to be working off the first page. We're going to do the same thing that we've done in previous
Right.
years. Going to go by category. If you have any questions, after I read the category off, you can make any comments. Once I close that category, we're going to go to the next one. There's no returning back to the previous category once it's been closed.
Is this for public comment, are you referring to?
Right, they can-
Okay,
right.
thank you.
It's public comment, it's the public's hearing tonight, not ours, but the public. So once a category is closed, it's closed. So on the revenues, last year, under the current budget was $7,958,297. We're projecting this year to July 18th to June 2019 to be
No, you read this one.
$8,424,509. Any questions?
That's income.
That's income
Okay.
on the revenue side. Hearing none, move on.
I do have one quick question, if I could, please. Philip Cristiani, I apologize. Under line item 4110.4, could I have just a description of that, please? 4110.4, income.
IOD insurance reimbursement.
That's the reimbursement from the insurance company,
Okay,
from VFIS.
but nothing in previous years.
No, it was part of this, just revenue.
But nothing in previous years. On the current budget.
It was not broken out last year. This year, we're breaking it out as to how much we're getting in the revenue. Last year, it came in as general revenue, correct, Chief?
Correct.
From VFIS payment
The approved
payments.
budget didn't have any appropriation of revenue from IOD insurance reimbursement. This year, through accounting practices, we're putting in $150,000 as a number, and when we get to the expenses, you'll see an offsetting expense to equal that number. So
Okay.
it's basically an in and out accounting practice.
Any other questions for total revenue? Okay, let's go to expenses. Equipment maintenance and repairs, last year was $246,000, this year is $226,000 even. Any questions? Hearing none, it's closed.
Well, this is under what? Under what category, please?
Equipment maintenance and repairs.
Now, I'm looking at another sheet, so bear with me if you would, please.
It's on page
First
3.
page.
Page 3.
Can I just ask, Art, are you capturing the audience? Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Utilities, $449,070. This year's gonna be $439,570. Any questions? Hearing none, moving on. Contracted salaries, last year was $5,825,699. This year will be $6,504,506.
Again, Philip Cristiani, may I ask for the increase?
Increase is contractual.
Well, a further definition is, what are the categories of the contract?
I don't have that before me, Phil. If you look underneath there, you'll see there's increases in overtime wages. You see there's an increase in holiday pay, longevity pay. Those are all contractual.
So what are you, Phil, are you looking for a specific percentage increase based on the contract?
Well,
So we're in year 3?
I realize the firefighter salaries, what was the increase from 2.863 million to 2.92 million from salaries?
Correct.
Big one here, overtime. We budgeted half
But you have the largest category, but the big number is, and I'm looking for it here, is the increase in overtime?
Correct.
That's correct.
In what line category, what line number is that, please?
6,400.03. Three lines down from firefighter salaries.
6,400,
.03.
0.03.
and why the big increase, please?
Because we've had 9 or 10 firefighters out on IOD this past year.
Are they still out?
I believe we still
We-
have 9 out, I believe.
So we also, one of the issues is we kind of underfunded. We had no expectation of what, on average, our IODs would be. So we are increasing that particular line item to adjust for IODs.
No,
We never had anything to go by, Phil. We went by, we basically budgeted last year for 4, anticipation of 4 people being out. This year,
Well,
those
if I-
numbers went up.
Look, I know putting the budget takes a great deal of time and effort, and I congratulate all the time and effort that was putting into it. It's not an easy job, and I understand that. I just am trying to understand this greater increase. I heard your explanation, but in previous years, there's always been overtime pay that's been involved, so you have that as sort of a baseline. But to have this big increase, it's like a 45% increase. So
Yeah.
how many, can I ask how many, do you have firefighters out now?
Yes.
Yes, we
Injured
do.
on duty?
Correct.
May I- Right now, as of this date?
Yes.
May I
Yes.
ask how many?
Chief?
5.
5 now.
May I, I'm not asking for names, can I ask the nature of their injuries and how long they've been out?
I've got 3 shoulder injuries, 2 have had surgery. They went out in November and December. They'll be out probably till August, having the surgery. I've got 1 back injury that's been 12 months. I've got another shoulder injury that should be coming back within 3 or 4 weeks. And I have a hamstring injury that's going on 6 months. And he just had some poor therapy, and it aggravated the injury, so they had to change therapists. So it's extenuating circumstances. And with a 12-man minimum, as soon as one person is out, it's automatic overtime.
I understand that.
If I could just elaborate a little more, it's a 2% pay increase, so the 2% also trickles down to 2% more in overtime wages. One of the biggest hits for us, if you come down to 6402, it's almost $100,000 more in pension. It's $96,000 more in pension expense because the entire employee retirement system re-amortized our schedule, and we've had between a 5 and 6% bump in our contribution. And then when you add the 2% on, it just moves up. Healthcare, fortunately, we're within a 5% range. It's contractual, the 2%.
One of the big things, Phil, is that we have a firefighter that's been out 18 months. He's applied for his pension. The state of Rhode Island, in its wisdom, it takes like almost 2 years, if not longer. In the meantime, we're paying him his full pay in accordance to 4519-1, and then we're paying time and a half to fill his spot.
So I
just want you to
what's
understand
involved.
what's,
I understand
we're
what's
up against.
involved based upon previous experience, and I think the insurance coverage for these injuries does not kick in until, what, 30 days?
28 days.
28 days. So at that point in time, the insurance coverage reimburses you for the salary that you're paying that firefighter.
80%.
80%, but at least a portion of it, but not
Right.
until 28 days.
but that comes in as revenue.
I understand, and then I'm going to use it as a partial offset, and I understand. I'm just trying to make sure that I understand the nature. I mean, these injuries, I know it's unforeseen, it is unfortunate, you hope that they get well quick.
And over the period of time, I had 10 different people out, 10 different mechanisms of injury. So it wasn't one isolated event that was causing it. That if it was an isolated event, if it was a piece of equipment on a shelf that was causing the problems, we could fix that easily. But all the mechanisms of injuries were different on each guy. That's almost impossible to predict.
And I know what the contract is. Have you approached the firefighters to see if there's some way to alleviate that position in regards to the overtime?
They've made some concessions with the deputies.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I didn't hear the response.
That was not a concession, that's part of the
Yeah,
contract.
I know.
Part of the contract, we have one deputy that fills one of the vacancies during the day shift. So we're saving 50 hours a week of overtime.
But any other attempts made, or, I'm not saying they would be successful, but any other attempts made with the firefighters union to see if there was some way to alleviate this overtime pay?
Those discussions are, we're under executive session, so we can't talk about those.
Well, are they still going on?
It's really not something that we can talk about. I mean,
I'm not asking for the details, are you talking with them?
we're always talking with them, always.
But there's been no change
Correct.
in the contract arrangements. And this is coming to the end of the second year of the 2-year contract, am I correct?
Yes.
No,
And they're-
3-year contract.
3-year
Sorry.
contract.
So this is coming to the end of the second year of a 3-year contract.
Correct.
Correct.
So there's been no change in regards to the overtime arrangements pursuant to the 3-year contract.
That's
Correct.
correct.
I know attempts have been made, but none of them have made any made any changes to it. It's expensive. Thank you.
It is expensive.
Retirees, $143,300. This year it'll be $170,222. That's for the retirees' pensions.
Same description?
Retirees, yes.
Same number of retirees?
One additional.
One additional. You're gonna have to explain that to me then. I thought they came under, the retirees came under the Rhode Island retirements.
The one additional is just under 6520, the COLA. That's where the one additional member kicked in. The other retirees were the Cumberland Hill members that we had the offsetting line item for.
Yeah, but that was in the previous years from regards to Cumberland Hill. Now you have an additional retiree who is not under the state system? That's what I don't understand.
He's under the state retirement system,
Yeah.
but he was an original member of the Valley Falls bargaining unit where they self-fund their COLA. So his COLA has to be now included in the 6520 line item.
Okay, hold on one second, 6520. Well, that's only 2,000. The COLA, 6520 is $10,400 to $11,935. That's
But
nearly.
The term retirees, chief, is mayors. Does it not include the mayors? Or our payment is to mayors every month?
MERS?
Mayors? Under retirees?
No. Yes. That one retiree under 6520, we also have to cover his health care. That's the additional 20, about 20,000 on 6510-01. Because he was injured in the line of duty, we have to cover his health care and his dental. So it's one additional on 6510-01, well, all categories.
So there's the 20,000 there for the health care.
Yep.
Then the others are 4,000 for the retirees, healthcare, dental, another 2,000, and another 1,000, the difference being a total of 30,000 roughly between that 6,500 line items of our retirees. Thank you.
Moving on, administration, $407,923. This year it'd be $420,460.
Mr. Champagne, again, Philip Cucciani, apologize, just for my clarification, administration of salary and benefits.
Double check before I...
Yes.
Yeah.
And does that include the chief's pay also in that category? or-
Correct. Correct. If you look under the administration, administrative salaries, which includes the chief, and the non-officers or firefighters, which would be the civilian workers,
Yep.
and then the health, it says healthcare administration, correct? Healthcare co-pays, Cumberland reimbursement, healthcare reimbursement, HRA, and dental for the administration, and then payroll taxes for the administration.
Besides the chief, how many other people are included in the administration now? A total of, please, just for my memory banks.
Right now, there's three civilians.
No,
That
it's
in-
more.
That
You've got-
includes,
We have a vacancy, which
We
I
got-
would count.
Right. But we're not counting the vacancies. Currently, right now, is the tax collector, the administrative tax collector, fire marshal office, right?
Fire prevention.
That's what I'm
That's the
talking about, fire
fire
prevention. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Right now, it's three, and there's one
Three.
open,
Pam?
right?
One full-time open, one part-time filled.
Pam's in there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so
Cheryl?
three 35-hour.
One vacancy
And-
Yeah.
And Donna's vacancy.
and a half.
Yeah.
4.5,
Counting the empty.
right.
And the volunteer.
thank you.
Administrative expenses, $487,100. This year it'll be $505,750.
If you would give me a minute in regards to that, please.
I'm sure, Phil, you're gonna have a question.
Thank you, that's what this is for, is it not?
Yes.
Thank you.
Phil looks up. Greg Dickomedes. You have two legal fees, one for $20,000 and a $25,000 increase for, is that for the collective bargaining agreement?
Right, anticipated, in case we need advice from an attorney.
Is that?
That's because we'll be going into a
Is that the same attorney that you're using for?
No,
No.
All right, so
that's for a labor attorney for anything that's got to do with the CBA.
Thank you. Gave you time, Phil.
I need a little bit more time.
Anyone?
No, okay. Thank you.
You all set, Phil?
Go ahead, proceed. Thank you.
Okay. Employee expenses, $19,550. This year, $12,850.
I want to jump up and down with joy. Thank you.
Your questions all set? No questions?
No questions.
Self-explanatory. Okay, other. Last year was $40,500. This year's $145,151.
I think you read that one right.
Yeah,
That number's incorrect. The other number is incorrect.
379.
379,665.
Yep, that number's wrong up front here.
Yep.
That is.
Yep. 379,665.
665. 655, sorry.
655. And this year, it's 145. 151.
I see in that category, again, Philip Cucciani. What is the TANS for, please?
TANs,
I know what it is. Explain it, if you would, please, to me.
that's money that we're gonna borrow.
That's anticipation notes.
What in tax anticipation notes do you anticipate?
Right now, it appears that we're gonna be running short on money because of the quarterly payments. People wanted quarterly payments, and then make the first or second payment, then you don't see them anymore. So the money that we used to get, when it was one tax bill, one payment, now is spread over. We're going into the fourth quarter.
And I think the finance director indicated, and I'm just asking for information, I'm not being critical, I'm just trying to understand, that over 50% of the people pay in one sum, meaning the remaining 45% might do it over the 4 quarters.
I don't think it's 50, but I think it's just under 50. I think you're right.
My understanding, Chief, was Dennis, under, what was it, 45%
Yeah.
paid?
45%
45% paid,
paid in one shot.
one shot.
Right now, there's approximately $60,000 outstanding, even after we're through with the fourth quarter. And some of the money, as you know, went into overtime wages that we had to pay. That was over the budget, so that drained our cash this year.
How many bills are we waiting for still? How many bills did not come in yet? How many paychecks? How many payments?
Well, I think it.
276?
Did we say about
1,000.
500,000, something like that? Yeah,
1,000?
yeah.
So we're about 1,000 payments behind waiting for the fourth quarter were 1,000 payments.
Out of how many, 8,000?
13.
Yeah, 13,000.
13,000.
13,000.
Just so I understand,
About
45%
30.
paying one lump sum with the first payment?
Yes.
Okay. How many pay, do you have a number as to how many pay within 2 payments, by any chance, roughly?
No, he wasn't around now.
No, we don't have those numbers, Phil, here. I mean, we can't break it down to, you know, is it by quarter? Right now, we're having a tax sale that's gonna be at the end of this month. Because if what's happened is exactly what we predicted with the quarterly payments. The people get it, make the first payment, and then they put it aside and forget about it. Then all of a sudden they'll get a notice from the tax office, they'll pay a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's dead again. And then now we're in the fourth quarter, and notices are not working. So now we have to go to tax sale.
I understand.
So that's why we can't wait till the last minute to say we need the TANs. We have to prepare for it. We had to go out to bid. There's all kinds of legal work that has to be done that Miss Morris has done, and it's all set to go through. They approved it. But it doesn't mean we're going to take it, but it's there as a safety net at this point. Because we don't want to come back and have to say to the firefighters, sorry, for the next month, you get no paychecks.
All right, I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to understand the position in regards to the payments that are coming in, and I'm still having a little difficulty, but I appreciate the explanation.
Well, you know, it's exactly what we predicted, that the quarterly taxes would not be what we thought it would be, that many people thought it would be.
And I remember that discussion and efforts being made to go to rather than 4, 2, but that's for another day.
Mr. Champagne,
Yes.
do we know between the deficit and the people that haven't paid, do we know how much money that is? What we're looking at? Because if memory serves me correctly, the last meeting I attended, it was 400,000 just for the deficit. So what are we looking at on top of this now? Does anybody know?
Estimated, right now, it's the same number as a deficit prior. It's going to be somewhere between 300 and 400,
Could you explain to me how it stayed the same with nobody paying?
because it's...
I'm not, believe me, I'm not a
No,
CPA, so...
because what you're talking about is cash position.
Okay,
The deficit is income versus expenses. It's two different items. They don't correlate together.
We also made a lot of cuts beginning in February. So we slashed the budget in February and
We
saved.
froze expenses.
We froze expenses.
that was that meeting that I attended.
Right,
And the
yeah.
chief said, and again, I get it with expenses,
Yeah.
but my biggest concern is, going back, is the 400,000 that we're still
Right,
on the hook for.
because the money coming in isn't
Isn't there.
there, or
Yeah.
it's very small and we're using it.
But was that deficit there prior to the payments not being there? That's basically my question. So we're still looking at 400,000 deficit, not including the rest of that it could be.
You mean high
Yes,
by June 30th?
correct.
No, I do not believe that it's going to be higher than 400, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We only can, right now, predict what's going to be in June. We can't say
Right.
for sure,
Again,
but
you know-
looking at, there's no back history, and we have to look forward, and looking forward, we have to make sure that we have the TANs available to us.
Correct. Again, I'm
It can't-
just
it can't-
looking at,
It can't be done in the last
down the
minute.
road, where all this other stuff is coming in, we're gonna have a problem.
Right.
Well, it's, the problem is that I myself think it's a quarterly payment that's a problem. I mean, most people, they don't have that big of a tax bill. Their cell phone and TV with Cox or whoever the vendor may be, added up in 1 month is probably more than what their tax bill is. But that gets paid first because it's going to be shut off. We can't not respond to a fire. And we only can send notices out, delinquent notices, and then go to tax sale to get the money. And we're very tied to how we do that because there is a specific law how that's done. And that takes time.
We all know why that quarterly payment was put in there.
Right, we know.
And you can say what you want about it. I myself pay it in full.
Right, it's not a big bill.
It's not. But we know why that was put in.
Yeah.
And again, there's nothing the board can do about it now.
No.
We can change it.
Not unless you have the public behind you.
Have you thought about making a change?
Yes, but we need time. That's another debate for another meeting.
I know, but we discussed it over here, just as a general outline. I mean,
That's a discussion for another meeting.
I appreciate it, Commissioner, but I'm going to I'm still going to say it's something that really should be looked at very closely, rather than 4, maybe a minimum of 2. As Mr. Champagne pointed out, most of these bills are in the maybe $300 to $400, $600 range, you know, and if it's 600, even 700, 350 and 350, so they both, one comes in at the beginning and another one comes in, you know, by December of that fiscal year.
But are you better off, and I'm not sitting here with a calculator, to collect 2/3, 2/4, or 3/4, and chase 1/4, or do you have to chase 50% of your money on the second payment? Person may make one payment, and then they don't make the second payment, we're chasing 50%.
Well, you could talk about that. and
We could,
I-
but I'm just saying, Phil, I appreciate your ideas, but I'm also saying there's also the other side of the fence.
Well, I think,
Mr. Chairman, I made a motion about a month and a half ago on the video, if I watched the videos.
I saw.
And well, if I get elected again, or when this is set in July, I'll make it again. And then there'll be time to notify the mortgage companies, notify the people in town, if they want to come to the meeting, not argue and fight. But this meeting tonight, I don't think is a time to make that kind of issue. And I think we've discussed it enough. We can kind
Well,
of
you're
move
going
forward.
off agenda.
We're going off the
It's
agenda.
not off the agenda, it's part of the income that comes in to pay it, so you
We
may
don't-
claim it's off, but it's
Yeah,
really
all-
part of the
but
discussion.
Okay, but to end it, we've jumped into income when that income was closed right from the beginning. So I'm not going to entertain any more discussions about income. We shouldn't even went that far, because that subject was closed. General reserve account, 149,155, zero this year.
No comments?
Mr. Champagne?
Yes.
The front page doesn't, other general reserve capital improvement station building, we're all listed under other on page 5. So there's really no separate, you can talk about it on page 5, but that's why it's not showing up with any corresponding numbers for this year.
Okay. Page 5.
By the SAG, that general accounting, general reserve account, they made you change the.
So that was all,
8,000
Deficit
reduction,
repayment.
yeah.
so it should have been, well, it's all in the other account that we had discussed already.
Yeah.
It was closed.
I'll
But-
have page 1 change before Thursday.
Okay.
So that'll be 100,000? 110,000 for station building funds?
No.
None.
None.
Zero.
Zero. If you look on page 5, you'll see station building fund was 90,000 last year. This year is zero.
That's deficit repayment account.
8010. Look at 8010. 8010.
Okay, sorry,
Yep.
my mistake, I'm looking.
Okay?
The numbers are going back and forth, sorry.
Yeah, that's zero.
I was
And
looking
then-
at the same thing.
Right, and then the
I was
actual,
looking at the 90,
the
yeah.
actuary study for healthcare, for retirees' healthcare, was $10,000 last year, nothing this year. Any questions?
Here's the big one. How much of the tax increase are we looking at with this budget?
We won't know till next week,
At the second meeting? We'll
at
have
the
that
second
here.
meeting. It's actually the third meeting. This is the
This is
public
the first,
meeting.
this is a public-
Then-
public.
Then we have a,
Second is the vote, first vote,
and
third is
then
the,
the
okay.
third
Well, we'll
meeting.
have that by,
No.
well,
I just want to be clear. This budget is being adopted earlier than it has in the past because we are getting those TANs. My understanding from talking to the finance director, and Dennis, you can weigh in, is that the levy will come at a separate meeting after May 8th. So you'll know what the budget is, but you won't know what the levy and tax rate is until, I don't know when, but it will
After
be
the town certifies.
Right.
after the
town.
town right, so I just want to be clear,
Right,
you're
so-
not going to
so-
know what the tax rate is on May 8th, you're not going to know that.
No, most likely we won't, because the town certifies their tax roll. They won't release it to us through Visions till it's been certified. So they have, the town has to go in, like Diane was explaining the other day to the chief and I, come to find out, there's a whole set of house sales and transfers that have to be added to the tax roll that the town hasn't done yet. And it includes name changes, address changes, all that. Once that gets,
payment changes and all that good stuff.
all that good stuff, and once that's done and the town council certifies it, then we have access to it. We don't have access till. So, on my part, I technically was wrong. I was hoping that we would have it by next week. But now that I think about it, well, Diane explained to us the other day, the amount of work there's going to be to download into our system, that it might be the third week of May before we really know.
So we're just doing this budget just to satisfy the TANs.
We have to get it in by a certain date.
We're gonna vote on a budget, we have no idea what it's gonna do with the tax rate.
Well,
Well,
you're not going to know, you're not going to know the tax rate, you're going to know how much money you need from last year to this year, but, yeah, you're not. But the town doesn't do it that way either, they're unsynchronized, they do it a whole year
They're
later.
unsynchronized, we're not.
Right, well, I mean, that's,
I don't see how we can vote, even vote on a budget if we don't know what the taxes are gonna be. It seems like,
well, you can certainly vote on, this is separate from the levy, it is. You can vote on it.
what about the auditor general? Are we gonna override the 4% cap?
I mean, do you want me to answer that?
Sure.
There's no application for an override. We've worked with the Office of Auditor General. We worked with them to see if we would even meet the requirements for an override. We do not. This budget amount would be a levy of about 4%. A levy, not a tax rate, but a levy of about 4%.
And this, and I'll make this comment, is that between the chief, Diane, Mr. Finley, and the solicitor, the hours they spent working on the request for an exemption with the auditors general and their staff, each person put in about 50 hours into this project, because the state keeps on asking for more and more information. They even saw this budget. With that being said, last Friday, there was a conference call with them, with 4 of their people from their office, and they had tried to jump through hoops to see if we could fit under the emergency situation clause for the exemption, and we don't. And there's only certain items that they will look at. Correct, Mr. Finley?
Yes.
And we didn't meet that criteria. Having sat in on those conference calls, I felt very comfortable that they did everything they possibly could to try and help us out to find a way to get us the exemption. And we just don't fit. The shoe
Well, I'm
doesn't
not worried
fit.
about that, but I really don't want to go over the 4% anyway.
Yeah, you could look
No.
at it as good news.
But it's good news, but we were asking for it just in case. We're preparing in case there was a problem. Now, it's actually good news because it keeps the budget very tight. But we wanted the questions asked and answered by the state in case we needed that override.
But this would produce a problem. Now we're doing a budget, and we're not even gonna have the numbers from the town to know what our taxable property is. So we're kinda just passing a budget without even knowing what the tax rate's gonna be at the end, when we get there next Tuesday, I think is. And it's,
Well,
only because we
you-
need this loan before the end of May, or else we go broke.
No, we need it for next Wednesday morning. We need it for next Wednesday morning, an approved budget.
Yeah, so we get a
That's-
loan.
So, it's a loan, but it's sitting there till you need the draft from it. We're not gonna get a whole pile of money on Wednesday. It's no more than technically another word for an escrow account that we can draw from.
Yeah, but it throws our budget process out of whack. If we did it at the end of May, like we were originally scheduled, then we would be able to know what the tax rate's gonna be when we approve the budget.
Well, we can't change the bank's rules. We only can work within their guidelines. And truthfully, there's only one bank that would even speak to us. We went out to bid and nobody responded. And as a matter of fact, it was the same bank that was recommended to us several years ago in case of an emergency. So we can't make the rules. They're in the driver's seat, they're telling us they need it by a certain date, or forget it. So you have your choice of either voting for it or not next week.
Right, we can choose not to vote for it and we lose the TANs. Or we can choose to vote for it and be able to get the TANs.
As chairperson, excuse me, chairwoman,
Chair, just
Whatever, chair.
That's what I
as
do.
chair.
You never get it wrong.
It doesn't matter.
I understand that the 4%, I somewhat naturally disagree a little, because this proposed budget, if approved, at this $8,424,509 is literally 0.059, or almost 6% above the previous budget. It's not talking about the tax rate. Putting the tax rate aside, have you had any discussions internally about what the tax rate would be based upon last year's figures?
Well, it will be no more than 4%.
No more than 4%?
Well, wait a minute, again, let's choose our words.
All right.
Tax rate.
Tax rate
that's
versus
right.
It's
tax
different
levy.
than
Versus
tax
tax levy.
levy. So the answer is no.
No.
And the tax levy will be no more than 4%.
It cannot be more than 4%.
It cannot be more than 4%.
And that will dictate the rate, Phil.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, I know you
And
do.
you need waiting for additional information to come in to have a better idea of what that will be.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point in time, I still ask the question, you know what last year's numbers were. I'm sure you've done some computation, based upon those numbers, even though...
Attention, The library will be closing in 15 minutes. Please take your final selections to the circulation desk at this time. And keep in mind, no items can be checked out after 8 o'clock. Thank you.
Even though you anticipate with the new houses that have been just told is going to increase the taxes that are coming in. But have you had any of those discussions or looked at those numbers or run any of those numbers based upon last year's?
Well, it's hard for us to run across those numbers because you see a house being built. They're not taxed into the tax roll till there's an occupancy permit. So we just can't just grab a number because,
Mr. Champagne, I understand, but
Okay.
that's not my question. My question is, using last year's numbers, have you run some, potentially what that number might be using last year's numbers?
I think Dennis should answer that.
Mr. Finley,
If you wanted to use a potential, and it has really no bearing whatsoever, you take this year's tax rate and multiply it by an additional 4%. But that is no indication of what is going to be, because the tax levy is going to determine. And we will not have the tax levy until the town certifies. So if you wanted to do it that way, that's fine, but it has no correlation to what the actual tax rate's going to be. It is unknown at this time, depending on how the increase in the levy goes for the
I'm
town.
not trying to paint a black picture at all. I'm just trying to understand what we're talking about, and I understand that concept, because that number's not in, please believe me. But I know if I was sitting down there looking at it, I would work out a number just out of curiosity's sake, which you say no one has done.
Correct, because it doesn't matter.
It's a variable, it's a moving, it's a cloud in the sky. And we have 1,000 people who haven't paid their bills yet, and you're trying to offset that by anticipating how many units are gonna get built at the CVS complex and be occupied with a CO. I mean, you've been around long enough to know that these variables are so, indeterminate, right, Mr. Cusigiani? You've been around town long enough to know that. We can't, how can we sit down, we can sit and juggle these numbers until, who's gonna move in this week and move
I
out?
think my point is missing the mark, and I apologize for that. I'm not being critical, I'm just raising a point, whether you've done some number working.
he
Just out of
wants to know,
curiosity's
he wants to
sake.
know if we guessed.
Yeah.
We haven't guessed.
We haven't
At
guessed
all.
yet.
No, we haven't guessed.
The chief knows if people move in.
All right, so I'm not,
We have,
You want to use that word, that's fine.
we have
Why
not
say
guessed.
it?
The worst thing to do in the world is to
Yeah,
guess,
we haven't
because
done
when you
guessing.
guess, you're always wrong.
yeah.
Right.
Guessing
No,
gets
you're
you in
not,
trouble.
but that's okay.
You know,
I'm not saying you're right.
yeah, I understand, Phil. I understand where you're coming from,
Pay your fire tax.
and I
Which I do.
understand.
Well, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Let's get a bull board at Mendon Road.
What's that?
A bull board at Mendon Road.
Yeah.
A bull board, a big bull board. Pay your fire tax.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
Does
public comment.
anyone on the board have any comments?
I want to compliment the work of the chief and all of you, Kelly and Diane, Mr. Finley.
Hearing none, motion to
Well,
adjourn.
you have to take, public input, just general public input.
That's what we just went through.
Is on every agenda, general public input.
Yeah, we just went through that.
No, general public
General
input.
public input.
Right, but that's not part of this, that's part of the,
Yeah, you're not
What?
adjourning the meeting yet, because you need to
Well,
take general public input.
You're adjourning
I'll
the
adjourn-
conversation of the budget?
of the budget. That's all.
Oh, so you want to
Yes. Close the
Close the bu-
conversation of the budget.
close tonight's public hearing, you can do
Right.
that.
Yes, okay.
Is there
Is
a
there-
motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Santoro. All in favor of closing the discussion? I'm sorry, should I be taking over at this point in time, or do you want to?
Oh, you can go. Go
Okay.
ahead. So,
All in
go.
favor of closing the public comment on the budget, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, 7:50. Now, now I can
That's a
just turn it
7-0.
over to the chairperson.
Well, thank you. Any public comment? Greg?
Just one. At our last meeting, I made a comment about Station 2. and there was a couple of firefighters in the audience, and I apologize to those firefighters for the comment I made about the condition of Station 2. Yeah, I believe it was a little bit overboard. I have seen Station 2, I've seen the other stations. I've also worked in stations. It isn't the best. We all know that. The comment I made, I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting by Commissioner Champagne, second by Commissioner Hogan or Santoro. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.